Soldiers are kidnapped and brainwashed for dark intentions in the midst of the Gulf War. The main idea for the brainwashing experiment came from a close friend of a great soldier. These are Raymond Shaw, a representative from New York who is duped into running for vice president, Senator Tom Jordan, a rival for vice president, and Alina Prentice Shaw, also a senator, and Raymond Shaw's manipulative, cruel mother. The movie opens with a group of army soldiers laughing and playing cards. The setting gives the impression that a war is taking place. Raymond Shaw is alone when his superior, Ben Marco, orders him to get up in 2 minutes. Two of the soldiers are discussing the conditions of the area while looking at a map of Kuwait in 1991. As Raymond reaches a group who are playing cards, Raymond gives them an odd look and instructs them to be ready. When Raymond leaves, everyone starts laughing after giving him a serious look. The following scene is a flashback of the Gulf War raid in 1991. Major Bennett Marco is showing his students the combat scenes and how Raymond Shaw showed bravery in the war by beating the enemy. He rescued all his men but 2 single-handedly, and he was later given the Medal of Honor for his involvement in that operation. The flashback shows Marco discussing his experience. After that, Major Bennett Marco leaves the speech and bumps into Corporal Al Melvin, a member of his battalion. Marco is overjoyed to see him. Melvin shares the dreams he has been experiencing since the Gulf War with Marco. He admits to Marco that ever since the battle, his memories have been clouded. He even claims that Marco saved the group during the conflict, not Raymond. He also exhibits some war-related sketches to Marco. After listening, Marco says it's been a long time since the war, and he might be having some misunderstandings. Marco believes that Melvin is mentally ill. Marco advises him to rest. Melvin tells him that he has proof, but Marco is captivated by Raymond, so he brushes off Melvin and leaves. After that, Marco goes grocery shopping and returns home with some noodles and tomato paste. He then cooks noodles for himself and eats it while watching the news. Raymond, on the other hand, is also eating noodles at home while watching the same news channel. His mother Alina is a senator following the death of her husband. Raymond isn't very close with his mother because she separated him from his childhood friend and girlfriend, Jocelyn Jordan. Alina returns home and discusses politics with Raymond, who seems uninterested. Vice President Raymond appears on television after that. Because of his mother's influence, Raymond enters politics after leaving the military. As she watches her son on television, Alina is overjoyed. But Marco feels a bit confused and thinks about Raymond, who never speaks with anybody openly. But Raymond is now making a statement on television as vice president, and he is discussing his life from his childhood to the present. When the decision to choose Raymond as vice president is questioned by the authorities, Raymond's mother is present at the meeting. He turned down the position of a commissioned officer and served as a simple officer instead, winning numerous battles. Politics never attracted his attention. Everyone is a little confused by this, but Alina manages to put everyone's minds at ease before leaving. Major Marco is watching an interview with Corporal Al Melvin and observes that his statements are similar to what he feels about Raymond. It appears that Melvin and his brain have the same knowledge about Raymond. This makes Marco very suspicious of Raymond. After a few days, Marco also dreams about the raid, in which Raymond and him are kidnapped and brainwashed into killing members of their unit. Scientists led by a mysterious South African man are among those who kidnap. He also learns about the biogenetics experiment in his dream. The following day, Jocelyn Jordan, Raymond Shaw's ex-girlfriend, attends the official celebration of his success. She congrats him. Raymond reveals that his mother wanted him to leave her. Additionally, Raymond meets with Major Marco and strangely converses with him as if he is uninterested. Major Marco wants to speak with Raymond, but when Marco insists, Raymond's security tells him to leave. Raymond ignores him. After that, Major Marco meets with top military leaders to discuss his experience, the dream he had. After hearing all about Raymond and his dream, the authorities do not believe him. They ask him to attend psychiatrist sessions since, in their opinion, he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and as a result, hallucinates. He is instructed to be kept away from Raymond Shaw by military officials. Despite being warned by the authorities to avoid Raymond, Major Marco is interested in. Everyone is paying close attention to Raymond's speech since they all admire him as their vice president. All of this is observed by Major Marco. While Marco is on the phone, someone starts taking photos of him. He becomes aware that someone is watching him. Meanwhile, Raymond arrives at his hotel room. His phone rings, and it's her mother praising him. He takes up the phone as another phone and his room begins to ring. Someone calls him, asking him to go to his closet and unlock the cabinet. He begins to follow the instructions as if he already knew who is hiding behind the cupboard's walls. When he steps inside, he finds a large laboratory full of physicians waiting for Raymond. When Raymond enters the lab, the doctor asks whether he remembers him. Raymond does not remember him. He is hypnotized, and he does not have consciousness. The doctor places Raymond in bed and begins the implantation process in his brain. He does not speak or request anything. Meanwhile, Marco is continuing conducting research and he discovers that, except for Melvin, all of his unit mates have mysteriously died. He walks into Melvin's room, which is filled with Raymond's photos with crosses and blood on them, as well as odd drawings and sketches on the walls. He finds everything which he saw in his dreams in his house of Melvin. He also finds some notes with Melvin's handwriting on them. The written sentences match what he saw in his dream. While Raymond is having surgery, his surgeon asks him to recite some words that are written on a piece of paper. The words are the same ones Major Marco discovered at Melvin's house. Here, it is demonstrated that Melvin, Marco, and Raymond's minds are somehow interconnected. To clear his confusion, Marco begins investigating what truly happened. He decides to fly to New York City, where he encounters an extroverted grocery shop worker called Eugenie, who had previously recognized him. During his travel on the bus, Major Marco is having weird hallucinations. He first hallucinates a civilian contractor who disappeared after the battle. Then he hallucinates Eugenie with a bullet shot in his forehead. Marco arrives at the room supplied by Eugenie for him to stay until he arrives in New York. While having a shower at Eugenie's house, Marco notices a little lump on his upper back. When Eugenie bursts through the bathroom door after hearing Marco's faint moans of anguish, he uses a knife to dig at the area and pulls out a little metallic object by mistake. When Eugenie sees Marco in this circumstance, she gives him a strange look. Marco meets with Raymond purposely and confronts him at the campaign headquarters, knocks him to the ground, and attempts to bite out the same implant he believes is there. Police arrest him and place him in jail. The police investigate him for the attack he committed on Raymond, the vice president. However, because he was a great soldier in the army, the military leadership eventually helps him out. Marco brings the item he discovered on his back to his old friend Delp. He asks Delp to investigate it. He performs some investigation and discovers that this gadget is built with neurotechnology and that this experiment was carried out by a Manchurian firm, which is a wealthy private corporation with a significant political link. To fully understand his dreams, he now has the help of his old friend Delp, and he asks him to do an ECD experiment on him. In this part, it is revealed that soldiers were used in a brainwashing experiment. They have practiced telling a predefined story in their minds. After trying to conduct several investigations, he learned that Atticus Noyle, a scientist, was the driving force behind all the experimentation. Noyle created a groundbreaking implant device that can effectively alter a person's character, and his mind can be controlled by a voice command. He actively participated in the neurotechnology experiment. Marco goes to see Tom Jordan, the senator of vice president, and tells him all that has happened thus far. He doesn't quite accept what Marco says, but this knowledge is sufficient for him to dethrone Vice President Raymond Shaw. For this goal, he starts blackmailing Alina so that Raymond abandons his vice president chair. But Alina is an arrogant lady, and she can do everything to make his son vice president. She decides to turn on Raymond's brain implant controller and give him the order to kill Tom Jordan. Later, it is revealed that Raymond's mother organized everything in the Manchurian company's brainwashing experiment. She makes this decision in collaboration with the business. Tom Jordan and his daughter Jocelyn Jordan are killed on his mother's instructions by Raymond. He then leaves their bodies to sink into the ocean. Marco has a meeting with Raymond to tell him about his mother and how she made him murder his ex-girlfriend and her father, Tom Jordan. While Marco is doing the investigation, Eugenie is following him. Eugenie is an agent of the military, but she hides this from Marco due to security reasons. But when Marco confronts Rosie Akea Eugenie about being followed, she admits that she works for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They were keeping an eye on the plot for years. The FBI sets up a meeting with Marco and Raymond to convince them that they were brainwashed as part of an assassination plot. They got this information after discovering an implant in Melvin, who, like all of Raymond and Marco's squad mates, died mysteriously. This meeting occurs right after Governor Arthur and Raymond won the White House. Raymond receives a phone call from Alina, who has a strong connection to Manchurian. Now she decided to kill President Arthur so that Raymond directly gets the seat of president. She tells Marco to shoot the president so that Raymond can become president. She admits that she freely handed him to the brainwashers for the interest of the country. Raymond resists the mind control methods after Jocelyn's death. Raymond purposefully inserts himself between Marco and the president at the climactic moment. Raymond looks towards the hole where Marco is hidden and nods as a signal to kill the president as Eugenie races through the crowd to locate him. Raymond dances with his mother and guides her towards the designated area, where Marco murders them both with a single rifle shot. Marco prepares to kill himself, but after seeing Raymond's ascent, Eugenie arrives and wounds him, preventing it.